There's a kind of knowledge that doesn't come from theory, from speculation, or from convenience. It comes from sheer necessity. Survival under conditions that, well, modern life rarely allows us to experience. And today we're going to dive into one of those pieces of practical, historical knowledge that feels almost lost in our age of instant electricity. How to make a kerosene hurricane lantern burn for an extended period without sacrificing light. This is not a backyard trick or a stage demonstration for clicks. This is survival knowledge pulled straight from early 20th century manuals, the kind used by explorers, railway workers, frontier families and soldiers who simply couldn't afford to waste fuel. The methods they developed weren't just about efficiency. They were a matter of life and death. Before we go further, if you value this kind of deep historical survival knowledge, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who cares about history or preparedness, leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences, and subscribe to the Hard Pass channel. Your support ensures that these skills, these lessons from the past, remain accessible and preserved for the future. Now, let's get into the heart of it. At its core, the principle behind extended lantern burns is deceptively simple. Classic kerosene hurricane lanterns operate on capillary action. The wick draws liquid fuel upward, where heat turns it into vapour, and the vapour is what burns. Most modern users think that a larger flame produces more usable light. But early lantern users learned that maximum brightness wasn't their goal. What really mattered was a steady, reliable light that would last through those long nights. The challenge, you see, was how to maintain a functional flame without rapidly depleting the reservoir. The solution these early manuals describe is what they called wick throttling, combined with controlled draft. In plain terms, this meant reducing wick exposure and, slightly restricting airflow. Lowering the wick by just a few millimeters transforms the flame entirely. Instead of flaring and consuming fuel aggressively, the flame stabilizes. To find the optimal point, you raise the wick until the flame shows orange tips, then lower it slowly until those tips disappear and the flame tightens. That small adjustment is what achieves the lantern's minimum efficient burn. The light remains useful, but the fuel consumption drops dramatically. Airflow management was equally critical, The glass globe and the vents were not arbitrary design choices. Lantern manufacturers from the 1910s through the 1940s understood heat management in ways that are often overlooked today. The globe creates a controlled heat chamber around the burner, while top vents and side shutters allow the user to manage airflow. Restricting airflow just a bit raises the internal temperature, which in turn improves vaporization efficiency. The result is almost the same light output, but using significantly less fuel. The key is balance. Never seal the vents completely. If soot forms on the globe or it begins to fog, well, airflow is just too restricted. Adjust slowly until the glass remains clear and the flame is stable. Historical manuals referred to this as the economy setting. Cold and wind were, additional challenges early users faced. Modern operators often instinctively raise the wick in winter to keep the flame alive, but this dramatically increases fuel consumption. Historical users, interestingly, did the opposite. They relied on heat management within the lantern, trapping warmth instead of producing more flame. By adjusting venting and controlling the wick, they maintained efficient vaporization even in freezing conditions. Railway inspectors, night sentries, and frontier travellers used these techniques to make a single fill last through the night, and quite often beyond. Then there's the wick itself, a step where honestly most modern users unknowingly waste fuel. Proper wick preparation was absolutely crucial. Early homesteaders didn't just fill the lantern and light it, you know. They conditioned the wick first, soaking it fully in kerosene until it darkened uniformly. This ensured even fuel absorption, prevented flare-ups, and eliminated those pesky hotspots that would otherwise force a higher flame and accelerate charring. A conditioned wick establishes an even burn pattern, allowing the lantern to operate efficiently for hours on end. After soaking, excess kerosene is wiped off, the wick installed, and the lantern run at the lowest clean setting for about 15 minutes to stabilize the flame. This final step is often the difference between a 6-hour burn and a 30-hour burn on a single fill. Combine all three elements, wick height adjustment, controlled airflow, and conditioned wick, and the lantern naturally settles into its historical economy flame. What may seem like subtle tweaks are actually profound applications of practical engineering, honed over decades by people who could not afford to waste fuel or light. This isn't nostalgia, it's proven efficiency. In modern terms, it transforms an ordinary hurricane lantern into a reliable, long-duration light source during power outages, off-grid living, or survival situations. Understanding the why behind each step is just as important as the technique itself, because it shows how meticulous observation and adaptation kept people alive in harsh, unforgiving environments. If this guide has helped you grasp not just the method, but the thinking behind it, make sure to subscribe to The Hard Past. Share this with someone who values real historical skills, and leave a comment to discuss your own experiences or insights. These techniques survived because they worked, and preserving them today ensures that practical history continues to illuminate our lives, quite literally in this case.